empire faded into history, there was a road that seemed to lead to the end of the world. It stretched across mountains, through forests, over rivers, and across lonely valleys where few people chose to settle. For hundreds of years, every traveler who followed that road eventually reached one final place before the wilderness began: a quiet Roman inn. It stood alone upon a gentle hillside overlooking the frontier. There were no cities beyond it, no grand marketplaces, only forests, distant mountains, and lands that belonged to people the Romans scarcely understood. For many, the inn was not simply a place to sleep. It was the last warm fire, the last fresh loaf of bread, and the last familiar roof before the long, unknown journey ahead. The building itself was simple: strong limestone walls, a roof of red clay tiles, heavy oak doors polished smooth by countless hands. Smoke drifted lazily throughout the day. Travelers often said they could smell the burning oak long before the inn came into view. That scent became a promise. Warmth was near. Rest was waiting. Behind the inn, an ancient Roman road disappeared towards the west. Its carefully laid stones had carried armies, merchants, messengers, scholars, pilgrims, and ordinary families searching for new homes. Every wheel, every hoof, every sandal left behind invisible memories. Yet the road never complained. It simply waited for the next traveler. The innkeeper's family had cared for the building for nearly 4 generations. His name was Marcus. Unlike the famous generals whose names appeared in history books, Marcus never commanded an army, never ruled a province, never spoke before the Senate. He simply greeted strangers, prepared warm meals, repaired broken chairs before sunset, and remembered every guest who crossed his doorway. He believed those things mattered. Perhaps they mattered more than anyone realized. Every morning began exactly the same. Before sunrise, Marcus opened the heavy shutters facing the eastern hills. Fresh mountain air drifted quietly into the dining room. He swept yesterday's dust from the stone floor, placed fresh bread upon the long oak table, hung bundles of dried herbs above the kitchen fire. Then he stepped outside, for just a moment, every single morning. He looked toward the empty Roman road. Sometimes no one appeared. Other mornings, tiny figures could already be seen far away, walking slowly through the early mist. Marcus smiled every time, because every traveler carried another story. Beside the entrance stood a weathered wooden sign. Its painted letters had faded after many winters. It simply read, "The Last Roman Inn." Nothing more. No promises, no grand advertisements, only quiet honesty. Those who reached it already knew why they had come. Not far from the doorway, a stone well supplied cool mountain water throughout every season. Wildflowers grew around its circular wall: lavender, poppies, white daisies. Bees drifted lazily from flower to flower, while swallows nested beneath the inn's roof. Even soldiers often paused beside the well, not because they were thirsty, but because the place somehow encouraged people to slow down. One peaceful autumn morning, as golden leaves floated gently across the Roman road, Marcus noticed a lone rider approaching from the eastern hills. The horse walked slowly. Its saddle carried little more than a rolled blanket, a leather satchel, and a small wooden box carefully tied with rope. The traveler wore no polished armor, no royal colors, only a faded traveling cloak covered with the dust of many roads. When he reached the inn, he climbed quietly from his horse. He looked at the weathered wooden sign for several long moments. Then he smiled, almost with relief. Marcus stepped forward warmly. "Welcome. You've come a long way." The traveler nodded. "I've been following this road for almost 3 months." Marcus gently took the horse's reins. "Then you've arrived at exactly the right place." The traveler led his horse towards the stable behind the inn. It was small, but carefully kept. Fresh straw covered the floor. Wooden stalls stood neatly in rows. A black cat slept peacefully upon a stack of hay, barely opening one eye as the newcomer entered. Outside, the breeze carried the scent of pine forests from the western mountains. Far beyond those trees, the Roman road continued into lands where few official maps still offered guidance. The traveler looked toward the distant horizon, then back at the quiet Roman inn. For reasons he could not quite explain, he suddenly felt that this quiet place held far more stories than any city he had ever visited. Morning sunlight slowly climbed over the eastern hills. Its warm golden light touched the roof of the inn before spilling gently across the old Roman road. The limestone walls seemed to glow. Tiny drops of dew sparkled upon the lavender growing beside the well. For a few peaceful moments, the entire frontier felt perfectly still. Only the distant song of larks drifted through the cool autumn air. Marcus led the traveler's horse into the stable. He removed the saddle carefully before placing a bucket of fresh water beside the stall. The horse lowered its head gratefully. "It has traveled well," Marcus said. The traveler smiled. "His name is Orion. He has carried me across mountains, rivers, and more roads than I can count." Marcus gently stroked the horse's neck. "Then today, he deserves a day of rest." Inside the inn, the dining room had already begun to fill with the comforting smells of breakfast. Fresh bread baked before dawn, warm barley porridge, roasted apples with honey, herbal tea gently steaming inside clay cups. The large stone fireplace burned quietly, even though the morning remained mild. Marcus believed a welcoming fire should greet every traveler, no matter the season. The traveler chose a seat beside the window overlooking the Roman road. From there, he could watch every traveler who arrived. The long oak table showed the marks of many generations. Small scratches left by wooden bowls, faint circles from clay mugs, tiny carvings made by guests who had passed through decades earlier. Nothing had been polished away. Marcus believed memories deserved to remain visible. A young serving girl entered carrying a basket of fresh bread. Her name was Julia. She could not have been older than 16, yet she greeted every guest with the quiet confidence of someone who had grown up inside the inn. She placed warm bread upon the table, fresh from the oven. The traveler broke off a small piece. Steam drifted gently upward. "It smells wonderful." Julia laughed softly. "My grandmother says good bread can make even a long journey feel shorter." As breakfast continued, another traveler arrived. Then another. A merchant leading 2 pack mules. A gray-haired scholar carrying rolled maps beneath his arm. A young couple walking towards the frontier with little more than one wooden cart. No one hurried. Everyone seemed grateful simply to have reached the inn. They greeted one another politely, shared bread, exchanged stories. For a little while, strangers became neighbors. The scholar carefully unrolled one of his maps across the table. It showed the Roman roads stretching across valleys and mountains. Most routes were marked clearly, but near the western frontier, the ink simply faded into blank parchment. The traveler noticed, "Is the map unfinished?" The scholar smiled. "No, the land beyond hasn't stopped changing. Maps take time. The frontier changes faster." Marcus quietly poured more tea. He had heard those words many times over the years. Roads are easy to build, borders are not. Kings argued over them,
Generals fought for them, yet the mountains beyond the inn remained exactly where they had always been. The rivers continued flowing. The forests continued growing. Nature rarely paid attention to politics. After breakfast, the traveler stepped outside carrying his cup of tea. A wooden bench stood beneath a great oak tree beside the entrance. Its branches stretched over the Roman road, offering cool shade during summer and colorful leaves throughout autumn. Someone had carved a simple sentence into the bench many years ago. "Every long journey deserves one peaceful morning." The traveler smiled. Whoever had written it understood travelers very well. Marcus joined him a few moments later. For a while, they simply watched the road together. A shepherd guided his sheep eastward. 2 Roman couriers disappeared into the morning mist. A wagon carrying barrels of olive oil creaked slowly over the ancient stones. Life passed quietly before them, almost like watching a gentle river. The traveler finally spoke. "You've spent your whole life here, haven't you?" Marcus nodded. "I was born in the room above the kitchen. My father was born there too. So was my grandfather." The traveler looked towards the endless Roman road. "Have you never wanted to leave?" Marcus smiled gently. "I've met the world because the world comes here." The traveler looked once more towards the western horizon. Beyond the hills, the road vanished into endless forests. Few travelers spoke much about what lay beyond, yet everyone seemed curious. Marcus noticed the thoughtful look on his face. He smiled knowingly. "If you're wondering what's waiting beyond the frontier, perhaps after today's supper, I'll introduce you to the oldest guest this inn has ever welcomed, a man who has walked this Roman road for nearly 60 years and remembers places that no longer appear on any map."
Evening arrived slowly over the frontier. The long Roman road, so bright beneath the morning sun, now glowed with the soft amber colors of autumn. Golden leaves drifted across the worn stone pavement. The breeze carried the scent of pine forests from the western hills. Inside the inn, the fireplace crackled gently. Its warm light danced across the limestone walls, making the old room feel even more welcoming. Marcus placed another log upon the fire. Tiny sparks floated upward before disappearing into the chimney. The dining room slowly filled with quiet conversation. A merchant spoke softly with a shepherd. The young couple shared a simple meal beside the window. The gray-haired scholar carefully rolled his maps back into their leather case. No one raised their voice. Even after centuries, the last Roman inn remained a place where travelers naturally spoke a little more gently. The traveler sat near the hearth with a warm clay mug of herbal tea. He found himself watching the fire more than the people around him. There was something calming about the steady flames. Outside, the world felt enormous. Inside, the inn felt wonderfully small, safe, comfortable, almost timeless. Not long after sunset, the heavy oak door opened once more. A cool evening breeze drifted into the room. Standing in the doorway was an elderly man. His cloak had faded almost silver after many years beneath the sun. His leather boots had been repaired so many times that each stitch seemed to tell its own story. A weathered walking staff rested comfortably in his hand. Marcus immediately smiled. "Welcome back, Lucius." The old traveler returned the smile. "I see the fire is still burning." Marcus nodded. "It always will." Lucius entered slowly, not because he was weak, but because he never hurried. He placed his satchel beside the fireplace. The black cat wandered over and rubbed gently against his boots. "You remembered me," he whispered with a quiet laugh. The cat answered only by curling comfortably beside the fire. "It remembers everyone," Marcus said, "better than I do." The traveler watched with curiosity. "Is this the guest you mentioned?" Marcus nodded. For nearly 60 years, whenever Lucius disappears down the western road, he always finds his way back here. Lucius settled into the old wooden chair nearest the hearth. "The road remembers," he said simply, "and so does this inn." Marcus served him a bowl of warm vegetable stew and a thick slice of fresh bread. Lucius thanked him before eating slowly. Every movement seemed unhurried, as though he had learned long ago that meals tasted better when no one watched the clock. After several quiet minutes, the traveler finally asked, "You've walked beyond the frontier?" Lucius smiled gently, "More than I can remember." The room grew quieter. Even the merchant leaned back to listen. Not because Lucius told exciting stories, quite the opposite. He spoke so calmly that every sentence felt like the slow turning of a page. "There are forests beyond the frontier, where the oldest trees were already ancient when Roman engineers first built these roads. There are valleys where shepherds still greet the sunrise exactly as their grandfathers once did. And there are villages that have never cared which emperor sits on the throne." The traveler listened carefully. "No great battles?" Lucius shook his head gently. "Battles visit, they leave. The valleys remain. The rivers remain. The people continue planting wheat, baking bread, raising children, and repairing their homes." He smiled softly. "History often writes about kings. I've always preferred meeting ordinary people." Outside, night settled quietly across the frontier. The stars slowly appeared above the dark mountains. Marcus stepped outside carrying a small brass lantern. As he did every evening, he hung it beside the wooden sign, "The Last Roman Inn." Its warm golden light spilled gently onto the Roman road. Visible from far across the valley, a quiet promise for anyone still traveling after dark. When Marcus returned, he noticed the traveler gazing toward the lantern through the window. "My father lit that lantern every night," he said, "and his father before him." The traveler smiled. "Has it ever gone out?" Marcus looked toward the glowing light outside. "Only once, the night a great winter storm buried the road beneath snow." He paused for a moment, but by sunrise, someone had already cleared a path, relit the lantern, and left a small wooden message hanging beneath it, a message that has remained there for more than 300 years. The traveler looked toward the lantern glowing outside the inn. Its warm light rested gently upon the ancient Roman road. Beyond it, darkness stretched across the frontier. Yet the little lantern seemed perfectly content to shine without asking how far its light could reach. It simply did what it had always done. It welcomed those still on the road. Marcus noticed the traveler's curiosity. He reached for his cloak hanging beside the fireplace. "If you'd like, we can look at the message." The traveler stood immediately. Lucius smiled from his chair, but remained beside the fire. "I've read it many times," he said softly. "It never changes." The cool night air greeted them as they stepped outside. Crickets sang quietly among the tall grass. The sky had become wonderfully clear. Thousands of stars stretched from one horizon to the other. The Milky Way arched above the valley like another ancient road. The traveler paused for a moment. He had never seen so many stars. Marcus smiled. "The frontier has very little smoke. The sky remembers that." Together they walked toward the wooden sign. The lantern swayed gently in the evening breeze. Its brass frame had been polished so often that it reflected tiny points of starlight. Hanging beneath it by two small iron hooks was a weathered wooden plaque. Its edges had grown smooth with age. The traveler leaned closer. The carved letters were faded but still easy to read. "Leave this light burning for the traveler you may never meet." He remained silent for several moments. Such a simple sentence, yet somehow it carried the spirit of the entire inn. Marcus rested one hand upon the old sign. My great-grandfather carved these words. He believed kindness should never depend on recognition. The traveler nodded slowly. "So the lantern isn't lit for one person." Marcus smiled. "It's lit for everyone." A gentle wind wandered through the valley. The pine trees whispered softly upon the distant hills. Somewhere far away, an owl called once before the night became quiet again. The Roman road stretched into darkness, its ancient stones barely visible beneath the moonlight. Still, the lantern illuminated the first few yards. Sometimes that was all a traveler needed, just enough light to find the next step. As they stood together, a faint sound echoed from the eastern road. Horsebeats, slow, steady. Marcus listened carefully. Someone is arriving. The traveler looked into the darkness. At first, he could see nothing. Then a single horse emerged from the shadows. Its rider wore a thick wool cloak pulled low against the cold night air. Behind the saddle hung several leather bags filled with rolled parchment. The rider stopped under the lantern. For a long moment, he simply looked up at its warm glow. Then he smiled. "I knew I'd reached the inn." Marcus stepped forward. "Welcome. You've traveled late." The rider laughed quietly. "The lantern found me before I found the road." Inside, the fire still burned brightly. Lucius looked up as the newcomer entered. "Another messenger?" The rider nodded. "From the provincial archives." He carefully removed one leather bag from his horse. Marcus noticed the Roman seal pressed into the wax. "You carry official records." "I do," the messenger replied, "but none are as valuable as the little collection your family has kept." The traveler looked puzzled. "What collection?" The messenger smiled. "The guest books." Marcus glanced toward an old oak cabinet standing quietly beside the staircase. Its wooden doors had remained closed all evening. "There are hundreds of them," he said softly. "Every traveler who wished left behind a few lines before continuing their journey." The traveler stared at the cabinet in surprise. Hundreds of journals, filled with voices from generations long gone. Marcus picked up a small iron key from the mantel. He smiled gently. "Tomorrow morning, before the first travelers arrive, I'll show you the oldest guest book, written nearly 400 years ago, when this inn had only just opened its doors." The first light of dawn arrived quietly. A pale golden glow spread across the eastern hills, gently touching the roof of the inn before reaching the old Roman road below. The lantern beside the wooden sign still burned softly. Its flame had watched over the road throughout the night. Marcus stepped outside, carrying a small copper lantern snuffer. As he did every morning, he thanked the little flame before gently extinguishing it. The traveler noticed. "You thank the lantern?" Marcus smiled. "My grandfather always did. He believed anything that serves others deserves gratitude." The morning air smelled of damp earth and pine. Tiny drops of dew rested upon the wildflowers beside the well. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster announced the beginning of another day. The valley slowly awakened. A shepherd opened the gate to his pasture. Smoke curled lazily from a cottage chimney beyond the eastern hill. The Roman road welcomed its first traveler before sunrise. Another ordinary morning, exactly as it had for centuries. Inside the inn, Julia had already begun preparing breakfast. Fresh loaves of bread cooled upon a wooden rack. Honey rested inside small clay bowls. A pot of barley porridge simmered quietly above the fire. The smell filled every corner of the dining room. The traveler smiled. I don't think I've ever woken to a better smell." Julia laughed softly. "My grandmother says, if people remember your bread, they'll remember your home." Marcus crossed the room toward the old oak cabinet beside the staircase. It was taller than any man. Its doors were carved with simple images of vines, wheat, and the Roman road disappearing into distant hills. He removed the small iron key from his pocket. For a moment, he simply rested his hand upon the worn wood. "My father opened these doors every morning. So did his father." Then, with a gentle turn of the key, the cabinet slowly opened. Inside were shelves filled with leather-bound guest books, dozens of them, some thick, some thin, some wrapped in faded cloth, others tied carefully with worn leather cords. Their colors ranged from deep brown to soft amber. The oldest volumes had become almost black with age. The traveler stared in quiet amazement. "I've never seen so many." Marcus smiled. "Neither has anyone else. Most people come here for a meal, a bed, and another day's journey. They rarely ask about the stories." He carefully removed one book from the highest shelf. Unlike the others, it was smaller. Its leather cover had cracked with age. The pages had turned the color of autumn leaves. Marcus carried it gently to the long oak table. Lucius quietly joined them. Even Julia paused her work in the kitchen. Some books deserved everyone's attention. Marcus slowly opened the first page. The handwriting was beautifully neat. Simple Roman letters filled the parchment. At the very top, someone had written, "In the first year of this inn, may every traveler find peace beneath this roof." Nothing more. No grand introduction, only a quiet wish. The traveler ran his fingers lightly above the page without touching it. "It feels alive." Lucius nodded, "because every page carries someone's journey." Marcus turned another page. Each entry was only a few lines long. The road was peaceful today. The mountain pass remained open. A shepherd shared bread with a stranger. Heavy rain arrived before sunset. The fireplace burned warmly all night. There were no stories of conquest, no speeches from emperors, no victories, only small moments, ordinary days, quietly remembered. The traveler smiled. History books rarely tell stories like these. Marcus looked toward the window where the Roman road stretched into the morning light. "They should," he said softly. "Empires are remembered because of emperors, but roads survive because ordinary people keep walking them." Just then, a folded parchment slipped gently from between two ancient pages. It landed silently on the oak table. The paper was older than any of the others. Its wax seal had long since broken. Marcus looked surprised. "I haven't seen this before." Very carefully, he unfolded it. Inside was not a letter, but a simple hand-drawn map. It showed the Roman road, the inn, a nearby river, and one small location marked with a tiny symbol of a tree. There were only 4 words written beneath it: "The First Traveler's Oak." Lucius looked at the map for a long moment. Then he smiled quietly. "I never thought that place still existed." The traveler looked up with curiosity. "You've been there?" Lucius nodded. "Only once, many years ago. It's where the very first travelers rested before this inn was ever built, and the old oak tree is said to remember every journey that followed." The traveler carefully folded the old map and placed it back upon the oak table. For several quiet moments, no one spoke. Morning sunlight streamed gently through the windows, warming the ancient parchment. The words, "The First Traveler's Oak," lingered in everyone's thoughts. Marcus finally broke the silence. "My grandfather mentioned it only once. I was a boy. He said the tree stood long before this inn was built. Lucius nodded. And long before the Roman road reached the frontier. Julia stepped closer. I've never heard of it. Marcus smiled. Very few people have. The map was forgotten. So was the place. Outside, a cool breeze stirred the branches of the old oak beside the inn. The traveler glanced through the window. It seemed strange that one ancient tree could hide the memory of another. After breakfast, Marcus packed a small basket, fresh bread, a wedge of sheep's cheese, dried apples, a clay bottle filled with spring water. Julia quietly added a handful of roasted walnuts. You'll be hungry before you return. Marcus thanked her with a smile. The traveler laughed softly. I thought we were only going to see a tree. Lucius adjusted his weathered cloak. Old trees have a way of making people stay longer than they expect. The three men left the inn together. The Roman road stretched westward beneath the clear autumn sky. For nearly a mile they followed the familiar stone pavement. Travelers passed them from time to time. A merchant with 2 pack mules, a shepherd leading his flock, 2 Roman couriers riding toward the eastern provinces. Everyone greeted Marcus. Everyone seemed to know him. The traveler noticed, You've hardly left the inn, but everyone knows your name. Marcus smiled. When you remain in one place long enough, the road introduces you to the world. Eventually, Lucius stopped beside a weathered milestone. Its carved letters had faded almost beyond recognition. He stepped off the Roman road and followed a narrow footpath disappearing into the forest. Very quickly, the sounds of wagons and horses faded behind them. Only birdsong remained. Sunlight filtered gently through tall pines and ancient oaks. The forest floor was covered with soft moss and fallen leaves. Each step felt quieter than the last. The traveler noticed something unusual. The path itself was old, very old. Unlike the Roman road, it had never been paved with stone. It wound naturally between trees, following the shape of the land. Lucius smiled. This path existed before the Romans arrived. Hunters used it. Shepherds followed it. Then merchants. The Romans simply built their road nearby. After nearly an hour, the forest suddenly opened into a peaceful clearing. At its center stood the largest oak the traveler had ever seen. Its trunk was enormous. Its branches stretched wide enough to cast shade across half the meadow. Sunlight danced gently through thousands of green and golden leaves. The air beneath the tree felt cool and wonderfully still. The traveler stopped without saying a word. Some places asked for silence the moment you arrived. This was one of them. Near the roots, a circle of smooth stones formed simple seats. No walls, no roof, just the tree and the quiet clearing. Marcus placed the basket upon one of the stones. My grandfather believed travelers rested here long before anyone thought of building an inn. Lucius rested one hand against the ancient bark. It was the first shelter, not from rain, but from loneliness. The traveler slowly walked around the great oak. He noticed dozens of tiny carvings, not names, simple symbols, a small bird, a loaf of bread, a walking staff, a pair of sandals, a star, each carefully carved long ago. Marcus smiled. Travelers left these, not to say, I was here, but to leave behind a small piece of gratitude. A gentle wind moved through the branches. Thousands of leaves whispered together above their heads. For a brief moment, it almost sounded like distant voices. Not frightening, not mysterious, simply comforting. The traveler closed his eyes.
He imagined countless weary travelers resting beneath these branches over hundreds of years, sharing food, stories, and quiet companionship before continuing their journeys. As they unpacked their simple meal, Lucius reached underneath one of the oldest roots. Carefully, he lifted a flat piece of weathered stone. Hidden beneath it was a small wooden box. Its lid carried a faded carving of the Roman road stretching toward the horizon. Marcus looked genuinely surprised. "I never knew this was here." Lucius smiled. "I promised an old friend that I would only open it when someone arrived who understood that the greatest journeys are not measured by distance, but by the kindness we leave behind."
Lucius rested the small wooden box upon the circle of stones beneath the great oak. For a few quiet moments, no one reached toward it. The breeze moved gently through the branches above. Leaves drifted slowly to the ground. The traveler noticed that even the birds seemed unusually calm, almost as though they had gathered beneath this ancient tree for countless mornings before. The box itself was beautifully simple, made from dark oak. Its corners had been strengthened with narrow strips of bronze. Time had softened every edge until it felt smooth beneath the hand. The carved image of the Roman road remained surprisingly clear. Marcus traced it gently with one finger. "My grandfather never spoke of this." Lucius smiled. Some things were meant to be discovered, not inherited. He slowly lifted the lid. It opened without a sound. Inside, there was no treasure, no gold, no jewels. Only 3 carefully wrapped objects resting upon a piece of faded linen: a small leather notebook, a polished river stone, and a simple wooden spoon carved from olive wood. The traveler looked puzzled. "That's all?" Lucius chuckled softly. "Sometimes, the smallest things travel the farthest." He picked up the notebook first. The leather had faded to a warm chestnut color. Its pages had yellowed with age. Inside, each traveler had written only a single sentence before placing it back inside the box. The first page read, "A stranger shared his bread when I had none." The next, "The longest road becomes shorter when someone walks beside you." Another page simply said, "I found rest beneath this tree." There were no names, only quiet memories. Marcus slowly turned another page. Some entries had been written in elegant Roman handwriting, others in rough, uneven letters. One was clearly written by a child. "I found rest beneath this tree." Julia would have smiled at that one. The traveler imagined generations of ordinary people adding their own small thoughts before continuing down the road. Not to become famous, only to leave kindness behind. Next, Lucius lifted the smooth river stone. It fit perfectly in the palm of his hand. "This came from the river beside the inn," he explained. "Every traveler carried it for a day, and before leaving, they returned it here." The traveler turned the stone slowly beneath the sunlight. Centuries of hands had polished it until it reflected the light like glass. "So everyone touched the same stone?" Lucius nodded. "In a way, they all walked together." Finally, the old man held up the olive wood spoon. Its handle had darkened with age. Tiny marks covered its surface. Not damage, just the gentle wear of everyday use. "My teacher gave this to me nearly 50 years ago," Lucius said. "He told me no traveler should ever eat alone if another seat remains empty." Marcus smiled warmly. "My father used to say almost the same thing."
They shared the simple meal beneath the great oak: fresh bread, cheese, walnuts, dried apples, spring water. Nothing extravagant, yet the traveler could not remember a meal that had tasted more satisfying. Perhaps because every bite was accompanied by quiet conversation, birdsong, and the soft whisper of leaves overhead. After lunch, Marcus carefully returned the notebook, the river stone, and the wooden spoon to the box. Lucius closed the lid gently. Then he placed it beneath the great root exactly as he had found it. The flat stone covered it once more, hidden, patient, waiting for another traveler who understood that some treasures were not meant to be displayed, only preserved. As they prepared to leave, the traveler noticed something carved high upon the ancient trunk. Unlike the small symbols below, these words were written in beautifully faded Latin. Marcus looked up. "I've never noticed that before." Lucius smiled quietly. "The sunlight reaches it for a few days each autumn." The traveler read the weathered inscription aloud. "Roads connect places. Kindness connects people." The ancient oak stood silently beneath the afternoon sky. Its branches stretched toward the Roman road in the distance, as though still watching over every traveler who chose to pass beneath its shade.
The afternoon sun drifted slowly across the western sky. Long rays of golden light filtered through the branches of the great oak, covering the quiet clearing in warm colors. For a few peaceful moments, no one seemed eager to leave. Marcus quietly packed the empty basket. Lucius stood with one hand upon the ancient trunk, as though saying farewell to an old friend. At last, they stepped back onto the narrow forest path. The great oak slowly disappeared behind the trees. Soon, only scattered beams of sunlight remained between the tall pines. The traveler glanced back one final time. "I understand now." Marcus smiled. "What do you understand?" "The tree isn't important because it's old. It's important because people remembered to care for it." Lucius nodded gently. "Exactly." The walk back felt even quieter. A red squirrel darted across the path carrying an acorn. Woodpeckers tapped softly upon distant trees. Somewhere deeper in the forest, a small stream whispered over smooth stones. The traveler noticed how every sound belonged naturally to the landscape. Nothing interrupted the peace. Nothing demanded attention. The forest simply existed, patiently, as it always had. When they reached the old Roman road again, the familiar sight of worn stone pavement welcomed them. A small caravan approached from the east. 3 wagons, 2 oxen, several families traveling together. Children waved cheerfully from the back of one wagon. Marcus raised his hand in greeting. The oldest man guiding the caravan smiled. "We'll reach the inn before sunset." Marcus laughed softly. "The fire will be waiting." The traveler noticed something curious. Every caravan, every messenger, every shepherd seemed relieved the moment they saw the inn in the distance. Its red roof appeared above the rolling hills like an old friend. Smoke drifted gently from the chimneys. The little lantern still hung quietly beside the entrance, waiting for evening. The inn never called travelers. It simply remained where they hoped it would be. As they approached, Julia was sweeping the stone steps. She looked up and smiled. "I knew you'd be back before supper." Marcus chuckled. "You know us too well." She glanced toward the traveler. "And? Did you find the old oak?" The traveler nodded. "I found something much greater." Julia laughed. "Everyone says that." Inside, the dining room was calm. Fresh herbs hung drying over the kitchen hearth. Bundles of rosemary, thyme, and mint filled the air with a gentle fragrance. The black cat slept peacefully in its favorite place beside the fire. Nothing seemed different, and yet The traveler felt different. Places had a quiet way of changing people, especially places that asked nothing in return. As evening settled over the frontier, Marcus climbed a narrow wooden staircase leading to the inn's upper floor. The traveler followed. At the end of the hallway, Marcus opened a small room overlooking the Roman road. Unlike the guest rooms, this room contained no bed, only shelves, dozens of them, filled with carefully rolled maps, wooden models of bridges, small carved milestones, old horseshoes, broken wagon wheels, simple objects collected across generations. "A museum?" the traveler asked. Marcus shook his head. "No, a memory room. My family never wanted these things to disappear." One shelf held nothing but tiny clay cups, each one different, some chipped, some perfectly preserved. Marcus picked one up carefully. This belonged to a Roman courier. He stopped here every spring, for nearly 30 years. Another shelf displayed worn leather sandals. The owner crossed the frontier so many times, he eventually forgot which side he called home. The traveler smiled. Everything here belonged to ordinary people. Marcus nodded. They're the ones who built history. Near the window, a large wooden chest rested beneath a faded tapestry showing the Roman road winding through distant mountains. Marcus unlocked the chest. Inside, wrapped carefully in linen, lay an object unlike anything the traveler had seen before. It was made of polished bronze, perfectly round, with tiny engraved markings circling its edge. The traveler leaned closer. "What is it?" Marcus smiled. "My grandfather called it the traveler's compass. But it doesn't point north. It points to every Roman inn that once stood along this great frontier road, most of which have disappeared forever."